Hi everyone, this is the Messianic Apostate and this is my second video. I thank everyone who liked, shared and commented on my first video, especially after I posted a comment under David Wood's video about the fact that apostasy in the Muslim world is on the rampant. The topic of this video will be about the theological problem with the Tashahhud. In Sunni Islam, there are 5 daily prayers known as Salah or Namaz. Devout Muslims pray 5 times a day, and in the last rakat of Namaz, they recite a dua, i.e. a prayer, called the Tashahhud. The dua in question reads like this: At-tahiyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibatu, assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alayna wa la ibadillahi salihin, ashhadu an la ilaha illallahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. So that's how the Tashahhud is recited by Muslims in their 5 daily prayers. Here is the English translation of this dua provided by a Muslim website called myislam.org. All the compliments are for Allah, and all the prayers and all the good things are for Allah. Peace be upon you, O Prophet, and Allah's mercy and blessings are on you. And peace be on us and on the good pious worshippers of Allah. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that Muhammad is his slave and apostle. Most Muslims who recite this dua and hear this dua will not notice anything peculiar about it because they don't know Arabic, and they also don't know the English translation of this dua. However, when you read the English translation and pay careful attention to it, you notice that this dua has a theological problem. The problem is specifically the part that says Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu, which means peace be upon you, O Prophet in English. I say that this is a theological problem because when Muslims recite this as a part of the Tashahhud, they are speaking directly to Muhammad. When you look at this objectively, you will have no choice but to conclude that Muslims are unwittingly praying to Muhammad because they are directly speaking to Muhammad in their prayers. If you're making a prayer to a God called Allah, who for all intents and purposes is a Unitarian deity, and you include another person in that prayer and speak directly to that person, you are literally praying to that other person. Sunni Muslims speak directly to both Allah and Muhammad in the Tashahhud, so they are praying to both Allah and Muhammad. Muslims might argue that they aren't praying to Muhammad when they say Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu, but are simply invoking peace upon Muhammad so that Allah blesses him, as a means of fixing the theological problem with the Tashahhud. However, I find this reasoning to be unconvincing, desperate and fundamentally flawed, because while it is true that they are invoking peace on Muhammad, they are still saying, peace be upon you, O Prophet. In other words, they are directly addressing Muhammad by speaking as though they are in a conversation with him. So Muslims are invoking peace on Muhammad, but this is not mutually exclusive with the fact that they are also directly speaking to Muhammad in the dua. Invoking peace on Muhammad and speaking to Muhammad aren't mutually exclusive, but it's also not necessary. You don't need to speak directly to Muhammad to invoke peace on him. You could simply say, may Allah bring peace upon the Prophet, or something like that, and you'll still be invoking peace on Muhammad. And let's be brutally honest, if the Christian tradition had a prayer to God that required Christians to say something like, peace be upon you, Saint Paul of Damascus, in the prayer, Muslim apologists would never have the same charitable interpretation of such a prayer, and they would dismiss any justification for it as an excuse. They would have a field day in their dawah by using this as an opportunity to accuse Christians of praying to Paul and committing idolatry. Muslims already go out of their way to try and poke holes in the Christian understanding of monotheism anyway. So when Muslims speak directly to Muhammad in their dua, no one bats an eye. But if other religious traditions instruct their adherents to speak to someone other than God in their prayers, the da'is lose their minds and condemn these religions for promoting shirk, polytheism and idolatry. The Tashahhud is theologically problematic because Islam is supposed to be the religion that brought monotheism back to its roots. There have been countless times where I have heard Muslims condemn other religions on the grounds of being polytheistic, idolatrous, and associating partners with God, and make the outlandish boast that Islam is all about the oneness of God and is exempt from all of these problems. And yet, these same da'is also pray to Muhammad ibn Abdullah by speaking directly to him in their du'as, the same Muhammad who is supposed to be nothing more than a human prophet and has been dead and buried in Medina for the past 14 centuries. In fact, one could argue that the Tashahhud creates an internal inconsistency within the doctrine of Tawheed, specifically the principle of Tawheed al-Uluhiyya, which entails that a Muslim must only pray to Allah alone. In other words, this dua creates an internal inconsistency within the doctrine of Tawheed, and it is by no means a trivial contradiction. And there are many more problems with the doctrine of Tawheed, but I will not be covering them in this video. One of the reasons behind why I wanted to make a video on this topic is because one of the biggest selling points of Dawah is Tawheed. Muslims who give Dawah to non-Muslims will put a lot of emphasis on the oneness of God in Islam and how Islam is all about worshipping one God and associating no partners with God. Most non-Muslims who receive this kind of Dawah are taken aback by this because of how simple and easy Tawheed seems to them. I've heard many stories of Muslim converts talking about how Tawheed was such a significant factor in their decision to convert to Islam because it instinctively made sense to them. Some even say that deep down, this is what they always believed.
Of course, as you know, today Islam is a quickly spreading religion, and time will tell if actually Muslims will become more numerous than Christians. But many Christians are already Muslims, because many Christians have actually given up Trinitarianism and actually embraced Islam wholesale. But some others are Muslim at heart. They have now no longer accepted Trinitarianism. They might think that Jesus is a servant of God. Yeah, he's a prophet, he's a good man, and there is only one God. And that's exactly what Muslims are saying. In fact, many Christians, when they embrace Islam, they say, well, that's what I always believe. What Muslims believe in, I always believe this. But, you know, the church was teaching something else. It was confusing. I couldn't get my brain around the Trinity. Now it all makes sense. This is what I believe.
So what did you like about Islam and from what you've seen about Muslims?
So I really like the idea of worshiping one God, because the Trinity just didn't make sense to me. And I liked that it also took, all the prophets that the Christians believed in, they believed in the same prophets. So that really resonated with me. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, the idea of one God, it really intrigued me, and I admired that.
To become a Muslim, you have to confess the Shahada, which is Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, which is understood as a declaration that there is no God except Allah and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. But as someone who was once a Muslim for many years, spent countless hours with a Maulana in the masjid and is already educated about Islamic theology, I see right through the arguments for Tawheed. They work on the uneducated non-Muslims who get their information about Islam from the media, the far right, or hearsay, but they don't work on me because I had a Muslim upbringing and I'm already educated about Islamic theology. I am not a theologian or a philosopher, but I don't need to be a theologian or a philosopher to make a critique on Tawheed, especially if it is supposed to be as simple and easy to understand as many Muslims claim it is. If any Muslim watching this acknowledges that the Tashahhud creates a paradox for the doctrine of Tawheed, but still believes in it and says that Allah knows best, then you have no grounds to stand upon to condemn the doctrine of the Trinity on the basis that it is paradoxical. Although I am a Christian myself, I'm not a Trinitarian, I'm a Unitarian, but whatever critical thinking that I apply to the Trinity will also be applied to Tawheed. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, as it would mean a lot to me. I will try uploading more videos as soon as possible.